Hello everyone, and welcome to Devlog 2 of my stealth-based destruction game. Today we'll be taking a look through the past 6 months of development progress and how things have changed from the first development video, which you can check out here or below if you haven't already. In that video, I talked about splitting the project into 4 stages of development and what each stage would contain. These pillars are a good representation of what will make up the finished product, but fall short in conveying the time in which each stage will take to complete. To get a better understanding of this, I've laid out the pillars with their size depicting how much time will be spent to complete them, with some additional details in stages. I've done this to explain why there is a 6-month jump in time between this video and my original, as I wanted to wait to have better consistency when uploading. So here we can see what each stage will contain, the time it should take to finish, and some extra steps along the way. This is what I'll be working on next, as time has provided a better view of what I need to prioritize. While stage 1 proved to be quite informative and productive, I found that it provided more of a setting ground into the development of this game, and in doing so has allowed me to tighten my scope and provided a clearer vision on what I need to accomplish. This being a playable build of the game. So with that, welcome back to the development of Burn It All Down. In this devlog, we'll be taking a look at AI and combat. My goal with the AI is to have a reactive system of enemies that will call for each other when in need and investigate an area when finding something suspicious, like a dead body or a sound cue. To accomplish this, I decided to start small by making a chicken, something easy, right? This way I could expand upon the general AI structure until I had my desired enemies. So I began by quickly making a chicken model within Blender and giving it some placeholder animations for the different actions that I wanted it to perform. Bringing it over to Unity, I rigged the bones with some colliders and gave it some ragdoll capabilities.
What the fuck?
Following this, I began creating the AI script that would control the chicken and dictate its actions. My goals for the chicken AI were simple. I wanted it to idle around for some time, find a random waypoint to walk to, and flee when the player gets too close. This proved quite difficult as it's not something I'm familiar with, but within a few weeks and some much needed help from Kev, I had my desired result. I learned a huge amount about programming during this time, mainly that a timer should be executed within the update function. Otherwise, nothing will ever work. Yep, that was the level I was working at. I then created a sound manager for the chicken that would play a specific sound based on what actions were being performed. I was quite happy with my progress and was ready, or so I thought, to tackle something bigger. With my newfound confidence, I naively dove straight into creating the first iteration of my enemy AI. I had some old sketches of what the enemies would look like, going for a bit of a Grim Fandango mixed with Tim Burton aesthetic, and with that I began modeling, texturing and rigging the first of the 2 enemies, these being the Copper and the Footmen. The Footmen are to be cannon fodder and will be the most common enemy that the player will encounter. Think stormtroopers from Star Wars or warboys from Mad Max. Wielding only a club, they will be quite easy to deal with in isolated scenarios, but become challenging when in groups or alerting others. The Copper, on the other hand, will sport a double-barreled shotgun and be devastating to the player if given the opportunity. My first attempt at expanding the chicken AI into the enemy AI didn't go so well.
What the fuck?
Nor did the second or third.
Oh, Jesus.
I had underestimated the amount of work needed to acquire my desired results and vastly overestimated my abilities to pull it off. It had already taken me 2 months to create a very simple passive chicken AI that only performed 3 actions: wandering, fleeing and idling. For my enemy AI to be at the standard that I wanted, they would have to be capable of multiple states and actions, such as being able to idle, wander, attack, become alert or distracted, have multiple different vision cones depending on what state they were in, call others for help, detect the player from other AI, strafe around the player when attacking, ragdoll on death, hear player footsteps, and much more. Yeah, not happening in my lifetime.
Boy, that escalated quickly.
So I decided to look around, and that's when I saw it. On the horizon came the chosen one, the thing this project needed most, Blaze AI. So with this, I was able to begin creating the AI as the finish line seemed reachable again. I spent a few days creating some placeholder animations and began experimenting. Within a couple of weeks, I had a basic AI that would wander around, spot the player, attack, and even react to being hit. I then finished the bottle from the previous devlog by alerting the AI when being smashed. With Kevin on holiday, my progress had slowed, as now when stuck, I had no one to point out the obvious. This is when the next greatest thing happened to the project, the release of ChatGPT. With this, I quickly informed Kev to look for a new job as my progress had hit an all-time high. I quickly began implementing all sorts of features, from a weapon equip system to the AI health system. This first iteration of the health system simply called for a reaction animation to be played and deducted a set amount of health upon hit. On death, it simply disables the AI and replaces it with a limp ragdoll, which worked great at the time for what I needed. I also implemented a damage fall-off to the barrel explosions, so more damage is dealt the closer the AI is to the explosion. The AI would now draw their weapon when spotting the player, ragdoll on death, and inherit the force that killed them to send their ragdolls flying. This is when I added a footstep system that would play various sounds depending on the surface that the AI walked on. This took quite a while as it was very difficult to figure out, but I'm more than happy with the result. Around this time, I watched the second Mission Impossible movie, and this scene gave me a great idea. Now the chickens, if close enough, will alert the enemy AI when in their run state. I decided to further expand upon the AI alert features and created a player footstep system. This system involves 3 different layers that will alert the enemies depending on the player speed, which directly relates to if the player is crouching, walking, or running. At this point, I was very happy with my progress and decided to tackle probably the hardest challenge I have faced so far. Let me explain. So, in most games, the enemies take damage and play a generic reaction animation, like what my current AI does. This works well for those games, but the illusion is slightly broken when bringing that into VR. I want the enemy AI to react to what is happening to them specifically. I want to be able to push the AI over and have them get back up again. I want them to react to being hit based on where I'm hitting them. An example of this would be The Walking Dead, Saints and Sinners, or games like Human Fall Flat. These games use something called active rigid bodies, or active ragdolls. This basically controls the enemy ragdolls as a puppet of sorts, by feeding them their animations whilst maintaining their physics-based reactions to the world around them, which creates some hilarious results. I was able to implement this feature using an asset called Puppet Master and merging it with my current enemy AI. This took a few months to complete, and while I'm still not 100% happy with the result, I feel that it's in a good enough state to move on. From here, I reworked the enemy health system to incorporate hitboxes with various damage multipliers, including a weapon damage script that would pass a damage variable through a hitbox and into the enemy health script. This allowed me to create weapons that would deal different damage to the enemies compared to random objects that the player might throw at them. This worked great for the player's hands, as I could now determine how much damage at what force the player would deal when punching the enemies. From here, I added a feature that would cause the enemies to switch to their alert state and search the area if they stumbled upon a dead body. I did this by having the tags of the AI switch upon death to an alarming object, and also enabled a VR grabbable script at the same time to allow the player to hide the bodies if they want to avoid being found out. Lastly, I implemented a blocking feature that would allow the player, if performed correctly, to cancel an AI's attack, and gave the weapons they are holding a durability system that is only in effect when blocking. All of this got me to a point where I can happily say that the second pillar of the project is at least done with its first iteration. I will more than likely revisit and refine the combat elements of my AI, but for now I'm going to look towards getting a playable demo of the game ready so I can see how the gameplay will flow and get an outside perspective on how things are. As always, let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below and stay tuned for the next video. Cheers.